saw recently in theaters called FEMME. And if you like movies, if you like film reviews, if you just like to, sit back and listen to someone talk about what they've watched, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below. Consider joining our membership and stuff too. But I do a series where I talk about films all the time. I work in Hollywood. I write and direct, so I love doing that stuff, talking about films. But whether you've seen the film, whether you're going to see the film, or whether you don't have any idea what this film is about, feel free to sit back and relax. I'm going to have my phone down below. I'm going to give you some info, background info, what this film is, who made it and stuff. And then I'm going to tell you the synopsis, and then I'm going to tell you my thoughts on it as we go. And, there will be spoilers, so if you're going to see it soon, feel free to save this video and come back to it later after you watched it. But, let's get into it. So, the movie is called FEMME. F-E-M-M-E. And it is a British thriller, apparently, which, when I was watching this film, I didn't really notice that it was a thriller. And a little background about this film: I actually didn't really plan to see this film. I have, in Los Angeles, there's this AMC is a theater out here, and there is a subscription platform that you can do, and I have it. It's called AMC A-List, and you can see however movies you want. But I had a friend who, on Tuesdays, AMC does this thing where I forget what it's called, but you can get cheap tickets for $7. And my friend wanted to see a movie, and he said, "Oh, let's go see this movie. I heard it was good." So I went to this movie, not picking it, and not knowing anything about it. And yeah, so I went in not knowing anything about it, and it turned out to be, I think, one of my favorite films of maybe almost all time. I'll talk about maybe why it wasn't my favorite potentially, but right when I was watching it afterwards, it was incredible. This film talks about the queer experience, the gay experience, in ways that I've never seen a film talk about that before. It opened up a whole dialogue and conversation of new experiences and conversations about shame and relationships and love and desire, and it was also filmed beautifully. I think why it's a thriller is because sorry if you can hear music and stuff. I am filming this during the day, but I think it's a thriller because it really grips you. It really grips you pretty well from the start, and you're just in it to win it. So let's get into what this film is, and let's talk about it. So, as I said, FEMME is a 2023 British thriller film that was written and directed by Sam H. Freeman and N.G. Ping in their feature debut. It is a feature-length adaptation of their BAFTA-nominated 2021 short film of the same name. So it's directed by both Sam and N.G. June, and it's based off of Sam's short film. They wrote the short. On the short film that they both made. The film stars Nathan Stewart Jarrett, George Mackay, Aaron Heffernan, John McCrea, and Asha Reed. The cinematographer was James Rhodes, and it was the production company. So the company that made it, produced it, was Agile Films, Anton, and BBC Films. It was distributed by Signature Entertainment, and its release dates were so it premiered at the 73rd Berlin International Film Festival on February 19th of 2023, and then it was distributed by Signature Entertainment in the United Kingdom on December 1st. So it waited a whole year basically to get released, and then now it's in the US. So, and maybe it's been in the US for a bit, but I watched it and it's currently April. The running time is 99 minutes. So I'm going to tell you my synopsis of the film, and then maybe I'll fill it in with Wikipedia. But basically this film is wild. So this film follows a drag performer named Jules, who is working a nightclub in East London, which, by the way, that's where I went for the festival for my short film, is East London. But he's working a nightclub in East London as a drag performer, and he's dolled up, he's confident, and he's doing great. So Jules realizes that he's out of cigarettes, and so he goes to the convenience store down the street to pick up cigarettes. There's a huge lighting change. You know, like, think of a convenience store, it's like really bright lights, very like harsh, and he's coming from this area of like really like nicely lit, thought after, taking care of space into this really like brutal space. So anyways, he gets there and he is ordering his cigarettes, but the line's long, and then this group of boys come in and something's off with them, and then this man, who we find out later his name is Preston, but this white man, so Jules is black, is a black man, and Preston's a white man with tattoos all over. We find out that he like went to prison before, but he basically says to his friends, he's like, "Oh, is that a lady? Is that a, you know, the F word?" And our girl Jules is in line and looks at him and says, "Takes one to know one." And this enrages the man, and he's like, "What?" And then he tells his, and then Jules is like, "I saw your friend," to the other guy, he's like, "I saw your friend checking me out outside the nightclub. Takes one to know one." Jules gets his cigarettes, or her cigarettes, and we'll say him because he's him. Jules gets his cigarettes and leaves, and then this group of guys follow her / him, and basically the main guy that she accused of being gay basically assaults her, unfortunately, and it's you think it's like a hate crime, and they basically strip her of her clothes, and she's left to be nude on the street, and she's battered, and she then walks away back to the nightclub, and everyone's screaming, being like, what happened, and then we cut to 3 months later. So 3 months later, Jules is in his apartment, he's playing video games, and basically his friends like touch him on the shoulder, like, "Hey, do you want to come out?" And one of them says, "You know, by you staying in here, you're letting them win," meaning like the assaulters. So Jules gets teary-eyed, lets them leave, but then decides to go out on his own. He goes to a bathhouse, or also known as like a sauna. It's, if you don't know, a bathhouse is very much where a lot of like gay or queer people meet up, sometimes to be promiscuous. I don't know if straight people do that. Let me know in the comments for straight. Well, maybe don't. Straight people do. But he goes to this gay house, or this gay bathhouse, and he is there, and this guy makes a move on him, and he's like, "I'm not interested." So Jules is clearly trying to get out, but then, get this, Jules sees Preston, his attacker, in the bathhouse, and he's shocked. Jules basically follows him to his locker, looks at him, and they give each other kind of a look, and it's clear that Preston doesn't recognize him, and Preston basically invites him back to his place. So Jules follows. They get back to Preston's place, they become intimate, they have sex, and meanwhile Jules is like eyeing the bat in the corner. There's like a baseball bat, so he's eyeing that bat as they're being intimate, and then all of a sudden, Preston's friends come over, roommates come over, and no one knows that Preston is gay. I mean, clearly, he has a lot of issues. And Preston basically leaves Jules inside the room, and Jules kind of gets like very anxiety produced. And so, basically then, Jules goes out of the room and meets the friends, which Preston didn't want, but Jules pretends to be picking up like drugs from Preston and then leaves. They get their phone, and then they swap phone numbers. Then what happens in the film is basically, at this point you're kind of confused. You're thinking like, oh, he's gonna maybe, kill him. Like Jules is gonna kill Preston, and he doesn't. And you're kind of in between, like, is he enjoying this? Is he not? But then it kind of becomes clear later on. Jules like watches PORN, and there's this whole category about like outing people, outing men, and it shows all these clips, and now there's like millions of views, and then you kind of understand that maybe he's trying to out this man Preston. So they continue, the whole story is like they continue to be intimate and hang out, and Jules basically tries to basically out him by taking a video of them hooking up, and Jules does that at one point, but Preston catches him. Preston almost becomes violent, but then he pulls back, and then they have sex after that, and Preston at this point is very like aggressive, and Jules is very submissive. There's this whole conversation in gay culture, and just in general, I don't even know if you relate to that, but to that culture, but there's this whole dichotomy, and I love this. What I love about this film is that it talks about this idea of attraction to, it's like Stockholm symptoms, like where you can be attracted to people that oppress you, and a lot of people in gay experiences, and I've experienced this too, is like our main attraction, or first time that we are attracted to someone, is usually someone of straight orientation, and sometimes even bullies, and it can feel very shameful to be like, why am I attracted to this person? And this movie really dives into that, but really actually more illuminates why we are attracted to those people. And this is all my opinion, obviously, but in this film, they become very attracted to each other, and they kind of like develop this relationship very much in love, because Preston doesn't know Jules, doesn't realize that he, beat him up. That will come later, but they just have this relationship of, really aggressive versus submissive. And what this film does really well is you realize that, because what happens is they hook up, right? Jules tries to take a video, and then, they get into kind of a fight, but then they have sex again, and it becomes more intimate. And then later on in the film, Jules basically comes over again to Preston's place, but then once again his friends are there, so Jules puts on this act that he hangs out with the friends, he becomes more like straight orientated, plays video games with them, and then he basically carries that persona over to their sex life, and he basically encourages Preston to submit, and Preston wants to, and it has this whole dialogue. There's just a really cool scene in the film where it's very steamy, but there's this very cool scene where at the beginning Preston is telling Jules, like, I know you, like, be submissive, I know you want me, like, be a good boy, like, think of being like very dominating, and they're against the wall, and he's like whispering this to him, and that same scene is then reversed, and later on in the film, Jules says that to Preston, and Preston's like, yeah, I want that. So Preston becomes submissive, Jules then this is what's so cool. Jules then takes a video of them because that's also a type of foreplay in gay culture as well, and that can be considered a kink to be like being watched. So he basically takes this video of him, and their relationship is like forming. Like you can tell Preston's really like falling in love with him, and Jules is sort of too. And basically, after that hookup, where Preston's really submissive, they're back at Jules' place. Like that's where they did it. And in the morning, Jules wakes up to Preston being at the kitchen counter with his roommates, which is a very, very big deal because Preston at this point has never been fully out, or like, you know, he's just never been around people, and so the fact he's there is a big deal. And Jules likes that, but then Jules leaves or something, and his roommate invites Preston to Jules' birthday party. And at this birthday party, Jules is doing drag. Now his friend doesn't tell Preston that, and Jules doesn't even know Preston is going, but Preston ends up showing up, and Jules is at the performance, and basically Preston is like waiting for him. Like he's like, oh, where is Jules? And they're like, oh, he's gonna be on stage, and he's like, oh, really? And then Jules comes out in his persona, the drag wear, and Preston recognizes him, and basically Jules does this whole performance on stage. We can only get like a snippet of it. It kind of does this cool thing where it like zones out, or there's like this loud noise because you're kind of in the mind of Preston. But Jules does this performance where he is basically talks about, he's like, oh, as you know, I got assaulted, and but funny thing about him is I just outed him to the world or something. And meanwhile, Preston's watching, and Jules doesn't realize. And then Preston leaves. He like leaves a gift with one of the friends, but he like leaves. And this is why I think it's a thriller. Because at first I was like, it doesn't feel like a thriller, but I guess this is why it's probably classified. Jules goes after the performance. Jules goes to backstage, goes to the makeup area, and basically does her makeup, and behind her, like in the entire time, is Preston washing her, and she has no idea. And it's weird because, you know, she's in this really crowded room and club, and then there's no one there except for him at the makeup thing. And you think, I was like covering my eyes, you think, I guess during the entire film there was a lot of times I was covering my eyes, just because you're like, is something gonna happen? And I thought he was gonna like smash her head or something, but he ended up just talking, and they get in a tussle, they get into a fight, and it almost replicates the beginning, but what ends up happening is they end up fighting, and they get outside. Jules can't escape, and Preston, you know, gets on top of her and I think starts like choking or whatever, but then he stops, and he rolls over and starts crying, and he's bleedy, but he's bleeding. You can tell he's doing it all out of hurt because I think he loved her, or him, and Jules looks at him and leaves him alone on the street, all alone. And it kind of mirrors the same thing that happened to Jules at the beginning, that Jules was left in the street alone, which I just thought was wild. And the film actually ends, I forgot this part, but when Jules left the apartment the first time, right when the friends come, and she's like, or he's like, oh my god, I was like picking up some drugs, the phone number thing. He actually put on a yellow sweater that Preston had from his closet, and it's the exact same sweater that he wore when he assaulted Jules. And what ends up happening is, like, throughout the film, Preston's like, oh, these are knockoffs, like, but one day you should get a real one. And the film ends where Jules opens up his present, and it's a yellow sweater. It's the same one, but on a note it says, this is the real one. Enjoy, from Preston. the lovers, just like Shakespeare and everything. But to the extreme, and I love, what we were talking about before is like this conversation of attraction and, who's the real villain, and guess what happens is, like, obviously, that hate crime at the beginning, the assault, but then Jules, in my opinion, kind of turns out to be a villain at the end as well. No one likes to be outed, and you can kind of tell in this, movie that both people are on their own queer journeys. So you have, it's the two polar ends. You have someone that's closeted, that's maybe curious about their sexuality, but very, very, like, anti-presenting, and then you have someone that's in drag, super out there, super proud and submissive, and you kind of see their journey. So you see Preston's journey go from really aggressive to being way more vulnerable and open, and then you see, which is a positive arc change, and then you see Jules go from really open and caring and like confident to more of a middle ground and more selfish, I guess. I guess he was always selfish during the entire thing, but you kind of see him go more middle ground, and they kind of like meet in the middle. So it's interesting seeing both queer people and their experiences that way. And I think this lends itself to why a lot of people, queer and gay people, feel like they are attracted to bullies, and I don't know about you too, but like people that are mean to you. It's because this film kind of shows it. There is a spectrum of intimacy, and a lot of gay people or queer people know what it feels like to suppress their homosexuality, all of that stuff, and they take it as a sign when they see someone being homophobic or mean to them or anything like that, that maybe they're also on that journey. And that's what I love that this film was about. It's like it's a conversation about there's these two people on two spectrums of the journey, and they can help each other, but there's also maybe no right or wrong. Nothing is black and white. People don't necessarily always just attack people because they're mean. Maybe they're dealing with their own stuff, which I thought was interesting. But you should watch the film. It's really hard to empathize with Preston, but they do a great job where you're like, oh, I'm like, this is kind of hot, but like this is also really messed up. The film itself was a lot of close-up shots, so if you know anything about film, and trust me, I'm kind of like a newbie too, but that's why I like these videos. I'm learning. It's like, it's a lot of close-up shots, meaning like kind of how it's filmed right now, where it's very like in their face, very tight, and it really lends itself to being there with the character, feeling their emotions and like being attached to them, versus like far away shots and wide shots that establish where they are. So there are a lot of close-ups, so you're very tight and you feel very like in their relationship. The scoring was amazing. There was a lot of good music, and like that carried over from scene to scene, and I just thought it was amazing. I literally walked away from this film being like, that was incredible. It had me gripped the entire time. The conversation was really good. Like, I've never been in a film where it's talked about how can, in society we have a drag performer and then the assaultant, and that's always like the black and white. But then this movie challenges that in a sense of being like, well, drag queens can be mean too, and vice versa. And I don't think that's like the takeaway of this film, but I love that, like, that's a conversation that could be shown in the film, and they like lent it to it. So yeah, I rated it like 5 stars. I think I did on my letterbox, and I was just like, holy, I think I was thinking about putting it in one of my #1 films. So on Letterboxd, if you don't know what Letterboxd is, it's like Goodreads, but for movies, it's basically an app that you can track your films and rate them, and people can follow. But on Tuesday, and the person I went with also really liked it. And sorry, I don't know if I said this or not, but I was trying to talk to him about the film, and he was like, "Oh, I liked it, but I had to disassociate a bit from it." And I was like, "Why?" And he's like, "Because I found myself getting attracted to Preston, and that's a very real life experience for me." And he was like, "I get attracted to people like that sometimes," and I was like, "That's totally normal, but it is part of the experience." And so, you know, if any of this interests you at all, these topics, they really interested in me. I am very, as a writer, I do like kind of like queer coming of age, so it had that, and I love intimacy and underlying stories and everything, and this hit the spot. But I would highly recommend going to check this out. I know it's not in every theater. I went to like the Grove, which was far away from me, to go see it, but if you see it, it's very good. And you should watch it too. Just let me know what you think. And yeah, I think that's basically everything for that film. Let me know if you have any questions in it. I usually like write these things down, but like what was things I liked about it? I loved the close-up shots, the music, the acting was really great. The premise, it was all shot at night basically, so I was imagining it's all overnights for shooting days, which was gonna be a lot. And then I think that I would have changed. What would I have changed about this film? Honestly, I don't really think much. Nothing comes to my mind. I think this is what I was saying, so a reason why I might not think this is the best film ever is the takeaway message isn't a fantastic one, and I think that's okay, but what makes a film stand out for me to like be one of my top films is I want to take away something that like enriches my life. For instance, like Arrival, for instance, like Everything Everywhere All at Once, those films, you leave the film, you're enthralled. Like, number A is like being gripped and being like totally invested in the film when it's happening is 5 stars up for me. That is so hard to do. If you are not bored, if you don't like zone out, that's incredible, especially with our attention spans now. But then sometimes I need a day to think on it, so that's good, but then, you know, I want to be able to like want to watch it again because it made me feel a certain way that I enjoyed. And not every movie needs to be like that, but that's just for me. And so I think this film, it was more of like a warning tale. No one really ended up happy, but it was very, very great, and you don't need to end up happy, but it kind of proved a point, I guess, that we all know about, but it illuminated this idea that like we're all on our own journeys. So yeah, but I hope you enjoyed this. I hope the whispering was decent. Sorry, I had to film this again. I've been having some technical difficulties, but please, if you enjoyed this, leave a like down below. Leave like a yellow heart in the comments down below, so I know you made it this far, and I'll give you extra love. Join our membership program. Like, click the join button. It's like support our channel. There's like a link. That's the best way to support this channel, and we have the best lives on this channel where we're all such a community, like all talking and uplifting and loving each other. So if you want a cool community that's really supportive, we are all from all over the world, we're all like rooting for each other, we're all different, come join our lives. They're every Thursday of the month, first of the month, but an easy way to keep track, click that bell notification, it will tell you when we go live and stuff. But yeah, also join our membership program. That's the best way to support the channel, and all the funds for that always goes towards like the channel, so that's how I got this new camera. So yeah, but I will see you later, my friend. Be amazing, do others and to yourself, and have a lovely, 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 lovely night.